with B-Bad and Brandon. You might as well just live in Australia after this, dude.
You're one of us.
Oh yeah, he says cunt now and it is a term of endearment.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my missus is Australian, so I'm usually called like a cunt before my feet hit the floor in the morning. So I've just sort of adopted it. And that's it's written in some Australian constitution somewhere that, hey, after you say the word, you have to follow it up with the term of endearment, like disclosure, disclaimer, because everyone says the same thing. It's like you've all been trained to say that.
I also want to just give look at the size of that knife. That is a fucking weapon.
That's a bread knife.
Dude, The Simpsons, man. Like, I've been waiting to play knifey spooning with someone since I was 10. I've been embracing the culture. Calling people cunts, I'm using big knives. Come on, man.
Fuck, that's funny. Oh, fuck. Are you right to get started, or do you want to finish eating? Because we're easy.
I thought we were started, man. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, welcome to the Platform Podcast. This is episode 17.
Fucking who knows?
Something.
Yeah.
All right. I lost count after 10. And we welcome a very special guest today. Yes, you're very special.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? A man who needs no introduction, but
You'll get one.
he will get one. Well, he's going to give himself one.
Yeah.
The muscle doc, Dr. Jodan Shallow. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. Long time coming.
Yeah, man. It's been, unfortunately, we were supposed to catch up over Pro Raw weekend, but...
That was a bit sad.
Oh, fucking oath.
Some shithead ate a bat, and now here we are eating with large knives off cutting boards.
I feel like that was the choice, though. Are there plates in your Airbnb?
What's that?
Do you actually have plates? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm roughing it, man. I'm living on the edge.
That is the best. All right, before we get into it, we do have a question we ask all guests.
Very important question.
Now, the worst person at this, I will add, was Luke Poley.
Okay.
But the best person at this was Gwaine.
Oh, he was very good.
I know.
Weird.
So that's what you're up against. All right, sir. You have only 21 words. We're going to count them. Who you are and what you do. All words count, including cunt, and all the other ones as well.
So I'm writing a Twitter feed? What am I doing?
Brandon's counting.
Okay.
21 words. All right, let me gather my thoughts here. This is a tough one. 21 words of who I am.
And go.
I like dogs.
It's 3.
Barbells.
4.
I'm a chiropractor, strength coach, educator? Question mark. Oh man, that's like worse than Luke Poley. I got.
Yeah. You're well over 21. That was much worse than Luke Poley.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a tough question, especially to sum it up like. I don't know. I like dogs. That's the one thing I know for sure.
We personally like asking people this question just to watch the anxiety build in their face. You handled it well until you got to that, like, oh fuck, I've covered all bases.
Yeah, that's really it, man. You take those things away, and I think that's it. Like I'll just disintegrate. I think.
Oh, it's so true that you love dogs. Like every Instagram story I see is just you with a dog. It's amazing.
Do you have your own dog?
The hardest part with the social distancing thing is like I want to pet people's dogs, but out of respect of like they're gonna kiss their dog on the head numerous times. It's like keeping my distance. So I'm like I have to like sit around. Especially in Bondi. Like Bondi, there's dogs everywhere.
Yeah, there would be actually. Because you had a dog, but obviously not anymore.
Yeah, back in California, 4-year-old German Shepherd.
Oh yeah,
Super cool.
you had to just give it away, didn't you?
Yeah, life gets in the way sometimes as that happens, but he's good. I get to see him kind of a few times a year, so it works.
Sweet.
Sick.
So we pretty much want to know, like everyone who knows you, because you are probably the most well-known clinician in the fitness industry, I dare say. You're like, no, don't put that pressure on me.
No.
Everyone who, has listened to you talk before, we've heard all the content stuff, but we want to get to know you a bit more. You started in, if I'm not mistaken, Windsor, Ontario in Canada. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You nailed it.
Fucking nailed it. Which apparently, Jordo said the other day, is equivalent to Frankston.
Oh, wow.
I think it's more gangster than Frankston. So a little bit of geography lesson for like Australians listening. Windsor is right across the border in Canada from Detroit, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So like for example, when the 8 Mile movie came out, like 8 Mile from my front door, no traffic at the border is 25 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So like we keep it real gangster. Like Frankston, I think is a little bit more like hillbilly, or as you would say, bogan. Like Windsor gets real quick.
Yeah, fuck.
Proper gangster.
Yeah.
What I want to know is how you go from Windsor, Ontario, full gangster, to traveling around the world and with no disrespect, not actually having like a physical home and educating coaches all around the world. How the fuck did that transpire?
Yeah. Dude, when I figure that out, I'll let you know. Yeah, so I started studying history and political science in uni my first 2 years. I was dead set wanting to be a PhD in history with like a specialty around World War II.
Oh, wow.
So I went major in history, minor in poli-sci, and then realized like just the people I was around like wasn't really for me. Like I love the subject matter. I still read on like a lot around World War II. It's kind of my favorite non-fitness pastime. But just like the community that's built around academia, especially in such a dry subject matter, is just it's too draining. It's bleak. So I was like, yeah, what do I like doing? I like training. I got into it for sport, and I was like, well, I don't like training because people don't like most people at the time, or the clients I had, like they didn't like going to see their trainer. It was like, oh, like I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And a friend of mine trained this guy. His name was Riaz. He was a chiropractor and drove a range, like was making bank. A similar time for money business model, but less time, more money. I was like, I like fucking Range Rovers. Like, I'll just wait. What do I got to do one of those things? And he's like, well, like history, you can't do history and political science. You gotta get into like kinesiology. So
no Range Rover money there.
Yeah. So I switched up. I went to the University of Toronto. I studied kinesiology. And then I went from the University of Toronto to a chiropractic college in Santa Clara, California. And that's kind of when things really started to take a turn to where I am now. So in chiropractic college, the first patient I had is you kind of treat patients as you go through the program towards the latter half. You're overseen by like licensed clinicians who've been doing it a while. And one of the first patients I had was actually a well-known dude in the powerlifting community, a guy named Dan Green. So I'm
just like, Dan Green.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it was funny. I met this dude. He's a super heavyweight powerlifter in California. His name is Bill Newman. He's not in it anymore. But like, you know, a 2K total or like a 900 kilo total. Yeah. Strong dude. And I just met him at a conventional, like normal big box gym, and got to know him over time. And he went out to train at Boss Barbell Club. And he met Dan, and we stayed in touch, Bill and I. And as I went through school, Bill had, you know, your powerlifting injuries. And so I would work with Bill, and he's like, well, I have this friend who has this issue, but no one can really solve it. At the time, I was kind of oblivious to powerlifting. I think I may have had Dan on Facebook, just like geographically, like, hey, here's like a dude you might know.
Yeah.
So I had a familiarity with who he was. And then he gave me, like, Bill's like, well, his name's Dan, like, here's his number, and like he's got this issue or whatever. He's been to a bunch of people, can't figure it out. I was like, well, fuck, like he's been to a bunch of like licensed, bonded, insured. Like, yeah, no, go see the kid, right? So, you know, taking life into his own hands, he came in to see me while I was still in school. And with him, it's just a logistics thing. Well, not just a logistics thing, but like he's 125 kilos in the off season, and he's one of the freakiest human beings ever put together. So it takes a bit of leverage and it takes a bit of strength. So we were able to like sort out his problem, and I started to work with him like pretty closely after that. Like I would go into Boston, train, work with him. Then once I graduated, I was working. I just got lucky, man. My first job out of school was as chiropractor at Apple World headquarters. So like the people that make the computer I'm on and I spend half my day on, they're located in Cupertino, which is like So no traffic. Cupertino was like 20 minutes from my house. With traffic, it was like 3.5 hours.
Oh shit!
Oh, dude, California is
That's
fucked.
a long work day.
Yeah. So I was working at Apple, like doing the corporate thing, like good gig.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was always like kind of training. And then I would still work with Dan. Like I would go into Boss. I had my table at, you know, a couple times a week. And then finally it's just like, hey dude, like there's a room here that's empty. Like, do you wanna take it and like rent out and start your own thing? And I was like, yeah, no, for sure, man. Like I got this like six-figure job in like the heart of the Silicon Valley with like the most well-known company ever. But no, sure, fat powerlifters who don't have money. Bring it on.
Let's
like,
do that.
Put in my 2 weeks notice, man, and then I transitioned into Boss, and
I don't really-
just like
I can't really see you fitting the Apple mold. Like,
oh man, I wear my glasses and I bought corduroys. It was a fucking nightmare.
fuck.
But so I switched over to Boss and then just got plugged in. Like at that point, it was 2015, 2016, and I I squat, bench, and dead, but like never did a proper program or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I would work with Dan for free, and then he would coach me for free. And he's like, "Oh, you should do a meet." So I think it was I want to say it was either the summer of 2016 or 2017. I think it was 2017 that I did my first meet, and had no idea. Like my two training partners were Dan Green and Andrew Herbert. So I was like, yeah,
The fucking dream team.
Yeah.
My first training partner was
all-star, like Monstar lineup, and but I go to this meet and I'm like, I'm gonna get fucking dusted. Like someone's gonna feed me my lunch. And like my handler at the time was like, dude, are you serious? Like you're gonna beat the fucking brakes off this thing. So did well, and then
What'd you hit? Do you remember?
Yeah, my first total was 1721. That's in pounds. Hey Siri, what's 1721 pounds in kilos? Useless. Unbelievable. Someone crunch the numbers.
I'll get this done. What is it? 1721 divided by 2. Yeah, 782.5.
First total.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, so from there, like I just got plugged into the powerlifting community, and I did Record Breakers next in like that November, and I totaled better. I don't know what that total was. And then my third meet was Pro Raw. So I came over Pro Raw 9. It was funny actually. I met Emad years ago when I was just started working with Dan. Emad had come over because Dane Group was actually a sponsor. So
he did Bosses Bosses.
Right, and I met him Boss of Bosses too.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who he was. Like, I didn't know he was like the dude. And Dan said, hey, my friend had like quad cramps. Could you help him out? I was like, yeah, sure, man. Like, I was at the meet all day anyways. And I helped him out, and he like made it through the meet, and was like, oh, dude, like I haven't been able to go 3 for 3 and it's like so long. I was like, ah, sweet. And then I get an inbox on my Facebook like 4 years later from this Emad guy. Who the fuck is this? Hey, you know, I not remember me, but you helped me out. Like, we've been following your powerlifting. Do you want to come out to Pro Raw? And I was like, are you serious? Like, like it was like, this is gonna be weird coming from a 30-year-old man, but like, have you ever seen Harry Potter?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Like when they give the elf the sock.
Yeah.
Like, he's free. He's free. Like, what?
Yeah.
No, I have no idea.
That's the best fucking reference I've ever heard.
So, and this is kind of where like it starts to take shape. Is, you know, it's an expensive trip over the pond, man. And like, you know, going and working in my own private practice, I wasn't making a ton of money, but Marcus had reached out to me and was like, you know, if you want, what some guys do is they kind of bankroll that trip with doing seminars. And I was like, what? Like what? A seminar? And that, it would have been 27 or that
2018.
Yeah.
No, 2017. Sorry, you were correct.
Well, yeah, because I did Pro Raw 9, and so what I did was Marcus was like, yeah, you can come to PTC, you can do a seminar at at like headquarters, and then PTC South Melbourne reached out to me, and they're like, hey, like we heard you're gonna do one. Would you like to do one here? It's like, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing, but it sounds good.
Put me in.
Yeah, and then Scott Watson reached out at Valhalla in Brisbane, and my sister was living in Townsville at the time. Or no, she was actually living in Brisbane. So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll figure out, I'll do
What's
a
a
thing.
seminar?
Yeah, what's a seminar? Google search, what's a seminar? And I did three 3-hour seminars, 2 in Melbourne, 1 in Brisbane. And I did Pro Raw, and that would have been March 2017. So in Melbourne, I did my first seminar, and I haven't really shut up since.
Shit.
Yeah, you like, I was actually at the Brisbane seminar after we met in Melbourne, and I definitely can see a difference in how you present these days. Like that first seminar, there was like 3 people came with me. Oh, sorry, 2 other people came with me, and one person, so Pagan, had no idea what Jordan was talking about. He was like, that went straight over my head. And I was like, yep. And then Nick Cowan, who's actually doing pre-script at the moment, he was like, yeah, I knew what he was talking about. He's got an exercise degree behind him. And then there's me just being like, yeah, I just hung on to what he said. Your level of intelligence is like ridiculous. Like, especially back then, the way you would speak with words, I was like, what the fuck did he just say?
Got to Google that.
Yeah. I was like, oh, my brain hurts. But now you've like really, I don't want to say dumbed down because that's not what you've done at all. You've really been able to articulate what you're trying to get across in a much better way that it lands with anyone at any level.
Yeah, I think I just know it better now, man. Like I think, and that's a weird, like it's a circuitous way of thinking to think that you know it better and it seems less complicated. But I think anyone who's really pursued anything, like with you guys with lifting, like you can boil down programming in a way where everyone's like, oh, it's reps and sets. Brilliant, fucking brilliant. It's like, yeah, great. That's what you need to see is reps and sets. But there's an engine behind that that's really driving those thought processes. So for me, like when I started, I think I just like you get siloed, right? Like for me, like in my education, I've been on this ascending ramp of complexity from, you know, my undergraduate right into the end of grad school. So it's like in some way, shape or form, I've been reading on this content for 8 years, closing in on like a decade. And I was like, oh yeah, like you take for granted what's like common knowledge, like what you deem to be common knowledge in your circle and how little people actually know. Right. And it, just in the same way you take for granted, like, you know, your physical literacy, like the way you move with the barbell, and you go train a complete novice and you're like, it's almost a frustrating thing and you can't get mad at them and you just have to get mad at yourself. Because like, I know this, but there's like, it's like a writer's block. Like you can't communicate and they can't, you know, exact what you're trying to communicate. So you're all of a sudden you're rendered useless. You have all this experience and all these certificates and all these, you know, clients and all this stuff. And you're like, touch your nose and someone like touches their ear. You're like, what the fuck? No, dude, your nose. But it's just a physical literacy thing. And it's the same thing that I came to realize with teaching was like everyone I was around, like when it came to the lifting stuff in chiro school, I was always a little bit more in tune because that's kind of where I like to hang out. And then even then, like, you know, getting to train with Dan and working with him, like he would cite textbooks that I had to read that he would just read for fun. Like, so I was always around people that like were that got it. And then next thing you know, like I'm in Valhalla or I'm in PTC South Melbourne and there's like a bunch of lifters that just want to be, but how do I PR my total? Or look, my elbows are fucking killing me. And it's like, the second I say lateral epicondylitis, they're like, all right, fuck this nerd. Like, we're out of here. So a big part of it was just like, it became frustrating almost to the point of like, and it takes a little bit of like wisdom, I think, to have this transition where it's like, I can't get mad at them. And because I can't change them, it's like, all right, I can change the way I deliver it. And that was the goal, was to be able to deliver it better without dumbing it down. But it just took an overhaul on my part and paying attention to things like, because at that time I was still reading, like I was ripping through like a few journals a week, like just reading research and constantly like rereading textbooks or rereading notes. And like, maybe you should read something about like human behavior, because that really seems to be your sticking point. Like you're already talking at a level that's a little bit down from the way where you read. maybe you should read at where your actual sticking point in your communication is, which is, it's not the complexity of the content. It's actually like, you don't understand people at all.
Because I heard you did
like,
a bit of, you read a bit of acting, you read a bit of acting as well, or of how to act.
Yeah, like a big thing for me, like in the same way I learned lifting so quickly, it was like, when I would consume content, it wasn't so much like, or when I would watch videos of people presenting, it wasn't about what they were saying. It was kind of how they were saying it. Like, and I feel like that, like, there is a way to do this. There is a way for it to be done. Like in the same way when like, there's no fucking way I could ever squat 320. And then Dan does his first warm-up set with 320. And I was like, okay, so it can't be done. All right. we have seen it with it's like the Roger Bannister effect. So then I just shifted my focus, was like, all right, like for now, for this small brief period of time until like, you know, and the industry standard in education is constantly rising, which is great because it does two things. Like it stifles and chokes out people who aren't delivering accurate information, and it forces me to kind of constantly be upskilling myself to stay ahead of the curve. But the big thing for me, the big department that I really had to take an inventory of was the people side. Like I'm not in the applied biomechanics business. I'm in the people business. So I had to start paying attention to that as something that would advance the career. Like I wanted to relay this information, but it was missing the target. So I just had to try and hone it in.
Was that always your career path after like Pro Raw 9 doing the seminar thing, or were you just thinking you want to go back to California, be a chiro, and fucking make bank, drive a Range Rover?
Yeah, honestly, man, like I still couldn't tell you, like, because the plans changed so quickly. It was just like, I don't know, like what, Pro Raw 2017, and then I was homeless. Yeah, like a year and a half after that. I had to text Dan and be like, hey, bro, don't check the cameras because I'm sleeping on the floor of the gym.
Jesus.
And I was like, you know, and you just roll with the punches, man. And like, you make the most of it. And that was the real catalyst for me. But just like, all right, this is what I do now. Like we started the podcast and we gained somewhat of like a very, very niche market for people who were just down for what we were talking about.
It took off quick though.
Yeah, man. Like,
well, I mean, I don't know from your end, but certainly from our end, it looked like it fucking just went boom.
It was weird, man. Like, you know, it's like anything that you like doing. Like, it's cliched for a reason, but like we would do it for free. It was just me and my buddy bullshitting about training. Like we had contrasting styles. Like Jordan was still competing in CrossFit at like a really high level, like West Coast regionals. I was like getting better at powerlifting, like beating my head off the wall, trying to figure it out. And yeah, it was like, you know, it's just attrition, man. It's like anything. Like how about like people come to me about like podcasts and stuff. Like when I used to host my podcast, I used to host it through this Google service called FeedBurner. So FeedBurner is like this super roundabout, like way to host podcasts for free. Like we weren't making any money. It's like we still don't make any money off the podcast, but like it was this way where it took like, it was a 17-step process using like 3 different websites to get it into the back end, like your RSS feed.
Yeah.
And it's like, that would be a non-starter for some people. And that's fine. It's just find whatever that thing is that's worth going through all these barriers. So anyways, with the podcast, with all that, like I was, like personal stuff happened and I found myself living in the Silicon Valley, like out of my car, at the gym, having to figure out like, okay, if I walk to the grocery store, I have more money because I don't need to pay for gas, but I need to get more food that I'll have to carry. Now, if I carry more food, will I then burn more calories and then like offset the amount of more food that I've eaten? So like these were the conversations. Silicon Valley was like, it's the most expensive place in the fucking world to live. And I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. Like I was presenting like maybe at that point 2 to 3 weeks out of the month.
Yeah.
And like remotely, like around North America.
Just at other gyms and stuff like that?
Yeah, just like mom and pop stuff, man. Like an Instagram account would reach out and it's like, you know, how much would it cost? Like, I don't know, someone pick me up from the airport and buy me
petrol and food.
Yeah, exactly. Just a cardboard that will work for food. And then I just, I got a lot of reps, but finally I was like, I bet you I could fill those extra 2 weeks of the month, or that extra week of the month, and not have to live in my car. So I had I was lucky enough to connect with now a really good friend of mine named Ben Pekulski. We met through the podcast community, and I was on his podcast, and we hit it off really well. And I went and lived at his house for a bit, and we trained, and we thought up this idea of doing seminars together, because we have contrasting yet complementary viewpoints on training. And so it was late 2018, and I had everything ready to go. I had all my stuff sold or shipped off in a storage unit, and I had a few dates. I had enough dates lined up that it kept me on the road for about 2 months. I was like, hey, I'll sort it out from there. So it was late November. I was done traveling 2 to 3 times a week and coming back. I was leaving and not coming back for good. So I had a gig in New York. I was going from New York to Lebanon, and then had a gig, as you do, right? Yeah. Naturally, which was fucking amazing. Like those guys, and it just goes to show you like the power of what we do, like how universal like the barbell is, and how it's just really like a figure for people to struggle with and overcome. Like it was the most incredible experience. And so I went from Lebanon back to New York to Tampa for Ben to prep for like our month in Australia. And so I came back Tampa, home for a few days, see mom and dad for Christmas, and then off to Australia for a month. And I was like, okay, I'll figure the rest out from there. And I haven't stopped traveling since. Like, I've been on the road.
Yeah, because obviously Prescript level 1 came out, I'm assuming during that time as well.
Yeah, so in that time while I was in Australia, leading up to that, I was doing, I was in talks with Good Life Fitness, similar in a concept, but actually different companies to the Good Life that you guys have here in Australia. Yep. And they were coming to me about developing potentially continuing education internally for their personal training department across Canada. I had done one of my courses I was doing was I developed a course and I taught it in Ottawa, which is a city in Northern Canada. And there was a lot of trainers who were into powerlifting who wanted to go, but also wanted that course to be recognized by Good Life. Just a lot of powerlifter Good Life trainers who wanted to come to this private event. And it was enough of them that were like, why can't we get credit, blah, 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 that it kind of got the attention of like upper management and like the VPs at Good Life. Like, why is everyone getting so up about this guy? Ironically enough, I actually used to work for Good Life. Like that was when way back in the day when I knew like Riaz and Cairo and driving the range, that was at a Good Life Fitness. So like someone in the upper VP director level was like, no shit. Like I remember that guy. Like, yeah, well, so let's hear what he has to say. And all of that came to fruition as I was overseas, when I was here actually in Australia. And then, so they're like, okay, here's the deal. Like we want you to develop 2 courses for us, for our training staff, and implement them across the country. I was like, yeah, sweet, man. So went toured through Oz and came back, was in LA for a bit, was kind of just building the podcast, and just, we had enough passive revenue through Prescript Online that I could afford to just kind of go from one Airbnb and like, oh, like, hey, do you want to come do content? Like, can I sleep on your couch? Yeah. Okay. All right. Fly you in, go sleep. So I went from like LA. I remember I spent Super Bowl that year at John Meadows' house and just come in and do like YouTube stuff. And I was like, this is the crazy, even now just saying this, like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, for example, remember when like you were younger, and I still do this from time to time, where you used to go watch like YouTube videos before you trained?
Yeah. I did that today.
Still do.
I bust out an old carton of Jack 3D and I watch Rich Piana train arms, and I go fucking
the greatest fucking isolation workout. Rich Piana's 8-hour arm workout. Fucking hitting that for sure.
Let me check my schedule. I feel like the Grinch. Like, get around in self-loathing. Like, I can't miss that again. But no, so like I remember I used to watch this video on YouTube of John Meadows grocery shopping at Trader Joe's. And I would watch it before I went grocery shopping. It was like a grocery shopping hype video.
Yes.
Like, I would buy so much
I would buy so much beef and fucking rice. That is the fucking best.
I bounced around just kind of doing writing stuff and talking about stuff and lifting stuff. And then a few weeks after a few weeks after that, I started with Good Life, and that was like a pretty intensive, like these are 3-day courses. So I've kind of fly all around Canada, and that's kind of been it, man. Like just kind of booked out city to city up until the virus thing hit. But off the kind of the momentum, I don't like the word, sounds a little pretentious, but like with teaching online, like, or like displaying what you're doing online, and people are like, oh, like I really want to take one of your courses. And it's like, okay, there's a market here for it. How do I figure out a way to deliver like an in-person experience online? And I put everything together for the course leading into September, maybe August of last year. And I was like, put together this 16-week course. And then the level 1 started its first semester, and we're halfway or 3/4 way through our second and starting our third. And you're just making it up as I go, man, really. Like, that's really been it. Like, especially with this virus, like we were scheduled, Kayla and I, to travel through to the end of 2020, different city every weekend. And yeah, like we should have been right now. Actually, we should have been here. There's a course that we were meant to do this weekend.
In Perth.
This weekend was Sydney. Last weekend would have been Perth. Next weekend would have been New Zealand. Then Bakersfield, New York, Abu Dhabi, Manchester, London, Amsterdam. But all of that's kind of like up in the air at the moment. So yeah, it's just, just roll with the punches. And, the online for the level 1 upcoming semester is reaching a lot of people, which is great. And so we'll just hang out and we'll start. But that's like the long and short of it, dude. Like just said
sounds
yes
like
to
quite
a lot
the
of
adventure, bro. You just keep saying yes and keep going with it.
Yeah, man. And you know what? That's a huge part of it too. There's a systems and business side that allow you to do that I think a lot of people disregard. It's boring, and like I don't necessarily talk about it, but there was a point where the fun's gonna stop if you don't get your shit together, right? Like if you don't begin to organize and prioritize what it is you want to do. Like there's stuff I do every single day that I don't want to do. But the macro perspective of like, am I in a place I want to be? And in a point like this, like I'm not laid off or anything like that. And that's something that I think a lot of people, I don't know why they come to me for advice, because it would be like the absolute way to do everything the wrong way. It's like, yeah, just keep beating your head off against a wall until you get through is kind of the way I did it. But at the very least, it's proof of concept that you'll do what's necessary. And I think for me, that's something that gets lost in like the Instagram posts of like, Jesus, weren't you like, I did a meet in June of last year and I had to be in New York that night. So I pulled my last deadlift, and with my singlet and socks and chalk and bloody fucking hands, I went to the local airport in Toronto City Airport. And I was walking through with my singlet on and
with singlet on.
Yeah, like through some, and like they're like, there's a large gentleman here covered in white powder and blood. Can you bring the dog? Like,
they bring the dogs and you just start playing with them?
He's clearly covered in cocaine. But like there's a sustainability factor. Like it has to be. And like it has to be on purpose. Like I'm not just going, like my life is extremely organized, albeit like seemingly from the outside through the window of social media. It's like, how do you do it? It's like, it's easy. It's like going to work on a Monday for me most weeks was just going to the airport. That was my job on Monday. That's what I did. Yeah. I went to the airport and I wrote on the plane and I went to the grocery store, and that was my job. And on Tuesday I find a coffee shop that opens early and I sit there until 3, and then I train, and then I, go for a walk with my girlfriend, and then we do it all again till Thursday, and then Friday I work in person till Sunday, and then Monday I go to work at an airport again. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes structure that's involved, because it can be an appealing lifestyle for some until they realize that like, oh, like you need to listen to people and like hire people for stuff you're good at, or invest in people to do work for you and give up equity of your company. And like, there's a lot of intangible business things that I do not, fuck if I knew anything about this stuff. I was like, when you work 24/7, 168 hours a week, and then one day you wake up and you have no money, you're like, oh, this again, motherfucker.
How did I end up here?
Yeah, so it's kind of swim in that perspective. And like, but you know, what do? We adapt, and you know, I adapt to someone. I have a really good assistant that works with me. I have really good people around me in pre-script. Like we have a CO and a CTO, and I have my business partner Jodan, and it's a pretty oiled machine. But like, you know, it's picking up a business textbook, it's picking up a finance textbook, or it's consulting with someone. It's not like, oh, I really want to read like the Journal of American Medical Association or whatever just came out, but it's like, I should probably read like, I don't know, something about something I really suck at. And not something about something I suck less at.
Yeah. What was the turning point for you? You know, you mentioned there that there was a moment where you're like, fuck, I better get my shit together. Like, what was that turning point? What was that moment where you're like, okay, shit's hit the fan?
On the business end, like, I mean, I was having routine anxiety attacks when I was living in California. Like, dude, I was sleeping at a block barbell club. The last twitchy weirdo that left the gym left at 3 a.m. in the morning. Once the Iron Maiden stopped playing at 3 a.m., the first trainer came in at 5 a.m. So there's like a whole other part of Boss that's Mountain View Fitness. That's like generic personal training, older population, people with a bunch of money. That first client came in at 5. So I was getting 2 hours of sleep a night for 4 months, 5 months when I was in town, and I was living out of my suitcase when I wasn't living out of my car. And it was like, that was for me, like, that was a jump off point where it's like, okay, I'm going to New York, I'm going to the Middle East, I'm going home, and then I'm on the road in Australia. It's like, you got 2 months before you end up living in Mike and Louise's basement, definitely selling coke in Windsor. It's like, that's the career trajectory.
You're going 8 Mile.
Yeah, you're going to be the most well-educated dealer of blow in Southwestern Ontario. So it's like, make it work. And like, there was a couple points in Lebanon where it was like, that was just a real, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, immediately you get there, and it's an amazing country. But I remember, like, you know, I don't know how familiar you are with Middle Eastern geography. I wasn't at the time either, so don't feel bad. But like, the people I were with, we were kind of driving around, and if you guys know the Hezbollah, so Hezbollah and Sunni, like there's Sunni and Shia. There's a sects of the Muslim religion.
Yeah.
So Sunni and Shia, Hezbollah and ISIS.
Yeah.
We know this one.
Yeah.
Hezbollah is like the opposite, the anti-ISIS, like Crips and Bloods, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Mongols, and what are the other bikie gangs around here? I'm trying to make
Banditos.
Yeah, perfect.
Banditos.
Yeah, Banditos.
You said that a little too quickly. I'm glad we're doing this over Zoom. But imagine that, Banditos, Mongols, Crips and Bloods, but this beef is going on for thousands of years.
Fuck.
And so Hezbollah they have like kind of this, okay, do you know the bird that eats out of the gator's teeth?
Yeah.
Right? So the gator is Hezbollah, and the country of Lebanon is the bird. Like, they're a militia, really. So anyways, long story short, I'm driving through this checkpoint, and there's guns, there's guys with AK-47s that there's no rules of engagement. Like, there's no, and I'm like, I talk about lifting weights.
You're not here.
It was right. Any longer, I'm on a no-fly list. But we get through this checkpoint, and we drive up to. It's called Our Lady of Lebanon. It's a statue of I think it's a statue of the Virgin Mary at the top of this like highest peak in Lebanon. Lebanon's a very small country, and you can look out and really see like all of Lebanon. Like, oh, there's Beirut. Like around the corner that way, like that's like Tripoli, and that's like whatever. But there's this weird like elephant graveyard Lion King moment, because the two guys I was with, I was like, wait, what's that over there? Like off in the shadows, like that's Syria. You don't want to go there by yourself. I was like, okay, I gotta figure this life out. I'm gonna just end up as a dodgy expat floating around Lebanon. But then on the business perspective, man, it's just time. Honestly, it was time. Like middle of this year, developing content. So I also work for I'm contracted by Ultimate Performance, which is like this transformation-based gym. It's an international franchise that has currently, I want to say 13, but he's ever expanding gyms around the world. And he was like, okay, I want you to go. He being Nick Mitchell, the founder. And so he had hired me in a similar capacity to Good Life, where it's like, I need you to develop curriculum, but here's what I want. It's a transformation-based gym, much more on body composition, so less on the barbell. So I was developing curriculum, writing my book, managing the podcast, traveling. Sometimes some of the trips were 20, 30 hours on a plane. And I wasn't too efficient with my time or my systems. Like, people were emailing me and DMing me and Facebook messaging me and sending me carrier pigeons. And it's like, it was just so overwhelming that, the investment of having someone to manage some of the peripheral stuff I'm not good at, that probably came around mid-June of this year. And best money I ever spent is just like having someone who not only has the skills to do the stuff you don't want to do, but has like the kind of the love to do the stuff you want to do, in the same way like you guys like coaching and training. Like, you don't like doing your taxes, that's why you have an accountant. Same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm still stuck on that story of Lebanon, to be honest.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So were you chatting to anyone at that time to help you with business advice or anything like that to get the business where it is now, or what was or learning on the way, sort of more for yourself?
No, man. Like, been lucky that just through kind of my network, I've had some people who are friends that just happen to run very, very successful businesses in the fitness industry. So I did a lot of dates last year with Ben Pekulski. So we did, I don't know, maybe we did 8 dates around the world. So we did 8 different seminars, not a little high, maybe 6. And just getting to spend time with that guy, man. Like, he's been around the online fitness space for a long time, like 2012, 2011. Ben was really kind of at the peak of it. And so he had learned a lot on the way, sort of trial by fire, where it's like, just jump in and figure it out. So just getting the consolidated wisdom from someone like Ben. I have friends, Steffi Cohen and Hayden Bowe, they own Hybrid Performance.
Your girlfriend?
Yeah, and just like, people you hang out with, and then you realize like, oh shit, like, hey, what do you guys think of this? Or like, should I do this? And you're just like in between sets or whatever. And then like the advice you're getting is from, someone that runs this fucking empire, but it's just like kind of your buddy, and like, oh, okay. So no, like I take on a lot, if like from a topic standpoint, like I'll talk to one of my friends about something, and they'll like give me some advice, and then, okay, you should probably read this book. And I was like, okay, sweet. And I'll definitely like just read that book. So it's, a lot of it is just the network though, man, like having the ability to pick up the phone. I mean, look, I'm having an issue with cash flow. I have a friend, Kyle Trainer, who's he's Australian. Yeah, and he's someone that's been immensely helpful for me on the business end. Like, but like, know your strengths, right? Like everyone thinks they can do it all. It's like, nah, man. Like, I attribute as much as like I would attribute most of where I'm at, but 95% to just having good advice and good people who just want the best for like what you're trying to do, and 5% is like stringing a sentence together and saying arm. Like that's really it.
What I really like about the way you present is because you're like a barbell meathead at heart. Like, it's the best. You'll be talking about the most complex thing, and then during pre-script level 1, we'll just, there'll be a picture of KK, and he'll be like, pour some out for KK, and I'm just like pissing myself laughing because it's like the funniest thing. But you're still be able to deliver that content in such a way that we all get it. Where does I look at you, I'm like, you're so authentically you. Where does that come from? Because we're in a day and age where social media hides, or we can hide behind social media, yet you're the fucking same across every board, whether you're, presenting, fucking in-person lifting. Like, where does that come from?
From doing the opposite for a long time and almost having it kill you. That's like, honestly though, like that was it. Like, when I was having like panic attacks, like I was on paper. My mom was so proud of me then. Now, we'll see. But like, I mean, I was kind of living out like, I finished grad school at 25. worked in the Silicon Valley, seemingly had my shit together, you know, was working at one point. I was working at Apple, Stanford University, and running 2 practices at the same time. So it was like, I had the resume, like, and I had on paper, like, the life, but I hated it, man. Like, I hated, dude, I wear glasses. No, most people don't know this. And I used to wear my glasses every day and I used to have like short hair. I had to grow, like, I have hair still because I grew out my hair when I was working at Apple. So I didn't look like Edward Norton in American History X. that doesn't fly well with a software engineer who's afraid of his own shadow, especially when the guy's got hands around your neck. So yeah, it was tough, man. Like, I lived like, and I don't want to say it was like inauthentic, but there was a lot of what I did that I did for the optics of it. Yeah. And it's like, it's funny because one of the things, like, once I kind of broke free, was in Boston, was like, all right, something's going to give, like, I'm getting out of here. Then it was like, mom's real proud. Tattoos. Even the guy, like, I remember getting my first tattoo. I have one that are covered, but like the one on my hand, the guy who was tattooing me, like, was talking to me for a bit before we got started. And this guy's got tattoos on his fucking eyelids. Like, this guy's done head to toe. And he goes, you sure about this? You sure on the hand? Like, there ain't no coming back from that. I'm like, I was just about to put it on my fucking forehead. Like, I don't want to read it to ever have to go back to like punching a time card. And like, yeah, I just wanted to like be around people I wanted to be around. And like, I don't know, the rest, I don't want to say it sorted itself out, because, you know, at still some points it can be like, oh man, wouldn't it be kind of cool to have a 9 to 5? And then I just think about like having to put on my glasses and my fucking corduroys. I'm like, no, all right, I'll answer this shitty email where everyone's yelling at me, or I'll take this phone call from overseas at 2:30 in the morning gladly. But honestly, I think that's where it comes from, man. For the longest time I didn't. Like, I was like, all right, this is what you're supposed to do. And then, like, I remember calling my mom, being like, or did she call me? Anyways, I remember having a conversation with my mom, telling her that, like, look, I'm not living in my house anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do with my visa, because I was working on a visa in the States. Yeah, by the way, I'm going to New York and the Middle East and Australia for a month. I don't really have, I need to send you my belongings. So it's like, oh, fuck, like, our son has moved back in. Years old, like, what the hell? So it's like, my sister is like a real doctor, like doesn't just play one on Instagram. She lives up in Townsville, and so she's like sweet. She actually just had her first kid last week. Like, she's
congratulations.
Great dude, thank you, Uncle Jordan. Reporting. Like, her husband's a great dude. She's a physician. Like, they got a house. It's sick. It's like right by the water. Like, how's Jordan doing? Like, yeah, you know, 50% ain't bad. You know, we got And then after that, man, it was just like, that thing in your head that was like, you shouldn't say that. I was like, fuck it, say it. So that's just kind of it, man. But it becomes something that you have to like almost protect. Like, I don't know if you ever read like Robert Greene's the 48 Laws of Power, but it's like your authenticity, whatever that is, your collection of behaviors that can be accumulated and attributed to who you are, is something that like you need to keep an eye on. You have to have like a metacognition. You need to watch yourself, because you can drift like pretty easily through social media, because it can be curated, because it can be edited, like, because you can, you know, you can look at statistics and things and be like, oh, well, this will do better. And it's like, so sometimes I'll like, I check myself sometimes just by taking the piss. Like, I'll just put stuff up, like waist trainer, like, just kidding. I'm going to say really big words about stuff you don't care about. And then like, just to kind of keep it like even keel. And I think having people around you that'll check you on your shit too helps. Yeah. At the end, but now it's almost easier now, because, and I was chatting with Kyle about this last week. It's like, you almost have to think of yourself as a brand, right? Like, if Nike came out next week when like, okay, we're not going to do Jordans anymore. We're going to do, I don't know, what, Phil Mickelson, some fat white left-handed golfer. You're going to do what? Like, that's off brand. Like, I thought about shaving my beard so I could train in gym so people didn't know I was in quarantine in Melbourne. Like, yeah, no one would recognize me. And I literally had to think like, that's part of the brand now. right?
Yeah.
That's like, you can't go Britney in 07 and just shave the fucking beard.
That'd be a sad day if that thing disappeared, bro. Don't do that.
Yeah, this is years of neglect written on my face. So yeah, it's, I think it's hard at a time like the business is kind of established-ish, but when I think you see people fall into the trap when like of trying to play what everyone wants and being inauthentic when money's not there. Like when money's tight, or like you're trying to break out from like, oh, I do a lot of in-person to doing online. They just go to like, hey, what works online? And they end up on like, you know, the Instagram pages of like these fitness slap dicks, and they just try and emulate that. It's like, there's no like, dude, if it's not, if that's you and like you have this effervescent, like you're outgoing, like you do this, and they're always doing this, and they start videos by clapping their fucking hands, like yeah, sweet, do it, man. But like, there's a shelf life on that, and I know people who make a ton of money in the fitness industry, and that like you talk to them in person, and they're like, you can't make eye contact, and hey, that's cool, man. Like, you know, like if that's you, that's you. Like some people are just shy, but then all of a sudden, like, hold on, I gotta just give me a second. I got this. We're dropping a new whatever you call it. Hey, what's going on? The one was like, who the fuck was that? Like, you end up playing like a character of yourself and do that wedge. Just like for me when I was like playing the character of myself in real life, and I was like the corduroy wearing, glasses wearing chiropractor.
We need a photo of that.
Wedge.
Yeah, can we get a photo of this?
Yeah, man. I might have a picture of my actual like
this would be
my actual
beautiful
work badge somewhere.
Yeah.
My like Apple badge. But
We
like
can put that in the podcast.
Wedge. Like I'm a meathead. I like chalk and barbells and talking about KK. Like, and then the less I could do that, like if I said Konstantin Konstantinov in a treatment room at Apple, people would think it's like, you know, the software engineer who won the math Olympics that worked down the hall. It's like, but like having to deal with that and just like, and to no fault of their own, man, because that was their barbell. Like that was what they were super passionate about. And I was like, man, they get to live this every day. And I'm in here like driving a wedge between myself. And social media can do the same thing. And then it forces you, like, I could have stuck around because, dude, the paychecks were sick. Are you serious? I worked like 30 hours a week and I was making like 6 figures a year. Like, it was a joke. But then that caught up to me. And I see people like, they follow the money and then, and look, I get it, man. Like, I'm fucking homeless. Like, yeah, like you need to have money. You don't need a lot of it. And if you have it from a business perspective, you should probably reinvest it. But I can understand when you look on, especially like, if you have a lot of experience or like you train people at a high level or like you have a proof of concept or you have an education, because there's people making ridiculous amounts of money that have literally none of those things. And like, what do they have? Like, all right, they have a videographer and they have, you know, Gymshark clothing that looks like some weird color fade palette that you see at the heart. Like, why do I need an outfit that fades from white to gray to pink?
I'd like to see you in that outfit. I think it would look good.
Yeah, well, dude, there was a point where money was pretty tight, where it was like, it was not a great on the internet, man. Like, that's where it was headed. But it's like, I think if people could stick to their guns, man, like it's a long-term play. But it's a long-term play just because you'll be alive enough to play it. Like a dead guy who dies of like heart attacks and anxiety at 27 is not worth anything. A live guy who's not dead at 30 is still not worth a lot, but hey, at least I'm not dead.
Yeah,
That's a fucking good point.
yeah. So I guess long story short, it's a shitload more rewarding doing what you're doing now than what you were doing before all that back at Apple and stuff. You must pinch yourself occasionally, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it was necessary. Like, and that's the thing, and that helps you frame other situations. Like at the time, I did it because it was necessary. And now when I have to sit down and like crack open my email and like, man, some mornings, especially lately, it's like. There was a few nights where I didn't sleep because I knew when I woke up, it was just going to be the giant Gmail slap in the face. It's like, yeah, here's what's on your doorstep. Here's the burning dog shit in a bag that's on your doorstep waiting for you when you wake up. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I want to walk outside and grab a coffee with my girlfriend. I don't want to have to answer 17 emails in North America before 8 a.m. in the morning here. but it's like, hey, remember that time you wore corduroys and your legs rubbed together and you had to put Vaseline on your quads? It's like, I just remember the smell of Vaseline. Like, you're walking around like California in corduroys at 270 pounds. Like, I'll just literally, I can think about it and the inside of my legs start to burn. It's just like, all right, fuck it. I'm gonna go do my fucking emails. But it like, as much as I didn't want to like do it, I had to do it. Now it's like, okay, I contrast. Like, I didn't want to do that then, but I fucking did it. And now it's like, I don't want to answer these emails. It's like, dude, you can answer emails with no pants on. You don't even right?
That's actually your rule during isolation.
Yeah, it's an isolation rule, and it's how to work out when it's work time. So when it's work time, you wear your pants. But when it's not work time, you don't wear pants because you're going to have a lunch break. So you take the pants off, and that just symbolises no longer working, so you don't have to think about
Are you currently wearing pants?
Me?
This is a grey area, though. This could be work or fun, so maybe up to you.
No, it's work, man. I like this stuff, especially like I treat this serious. Like, we got like the lights there. Like, there's a specific light.
We got a light as well, but we didn't like. We're not that smart.
We got pants on.
Do you?
Yeah,
actually, so do I.
Yeah, but I think like you have to, in a certain degree, like, not that I think treating things like work has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But little like having a light, like trying to fuck around and sort out the microphone, like there's a certain quality that, look, we're trying to reach people that we're trying to reach people that otherwise like wouldn't necessarily respect the things we're talking about. Like, this is a very broad net that we're casting out into the world. We want to be a little bit informative. We want to be a little bit like educational. We want to be a little bit entertaining as well, right? There's an art to like building people up a value ladder. So it's like, if it's a low quality production, then low quality then gets tied in with the rest of the products that I might offer, services I might offer. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yes, I'm wearing pants because I want to treat it like work. Because if you treat it like work, then you make money, right? Because people who don't treat it like work, man, like, and you guys see it, like, we could probably sit here and turn the cameras off or leave them on and probably name 5 or 6 people that are like, they're beating their heads against the wall why they're not making any money, but they're not treating it like work. Right. So the same thought process that goes into the pants doing the podcast is the same thought process to having the account, to having like the business systems, to having the coaching systems, to having systems for yourself. Like, even that in itself, that small practice of putting your pants, and as hilarious as it sounds, that's in our industry, that's something that's missing because you have all this freedom. Right. Mm-hmm. I remember, like, I'm very much a habitual person. Like, most powerlifters are very like fastidious. Like, they like being in control, right? And that's the nice thing about the sport.
We both know Luke Poley, so we know what you mean. Yeah.
Right. It's so funny, dude. We were talking the other day on a FaceTime, and then someone put up Luke Poley's deadlift at Pro Raw.
Yeah, it came back up in my feed.
The same yell and spit that you talked about. Like clockwork, Dad Poley comes up with the bear roar before the pull.
He pulled that anyways. We digress, but keep going.
When I lived in California, like in my very small apartment, I had my table was on furniture. So I had one standing, like, it was a circular table, maybe about that big. And I don't like working from home, but I had a habit when I would eat breakfast on one side of this circular table, I would eat dinner on another side of the circular table, and I would work on another side of the circular table. So I knew when I was sitting in this place, this is the work quadrant of the circle table, lawn furniture thing that I called my office breakfast nook and dinner table. But it was one of the first systems that I actually put in place, like, from looking at things like that and not wasting time switching tasks, right? Like, there's probably a series of tasks that you only perform with no pants on. And there's a series of tasks that you only perform with pants on. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a pen and a pad in front of me. I must also have pockets and pants on, right? Like, and I think that association, like, as funny as that might be, there's an observation to be had deeper to that. We're like, dude, that's fucking smart, because that carries over into the way you do other things. And now you're running a business, right? No, you're not just fucking around on Instagram.
I fucking love that.
It's a good rule, bro. Everyone needs it.
I'm actually a little disappointed you're wearing pants, but I get it. I know. We have some questions
Here we go.
from Instagram first before we get to those questions. Now, I did put these up. Some of them are great. Where are they? All right, well, firstly, one of my clients just said yum about you, so well done.
Who?
Jade.
Oh.
Yeah, just yum. That's all. I get it.
Literally like, what's his name?
It was Gwen. Fuck that guy. All right, so first question. Who would win in a fight? Junta or yourself?
Me.
Yeah, 100%. I fucking back you.
I know, he's scared, dude. Anyone with cauliflower ear scares the shit out of me.
I feel like he'd be more agile, though.
Hey?
He'd be way more agile, though. Like a fucking ninja.
Yeah, he's got a wrestling background, too. I don't know. He's a dangerous fucking kid, and he's pretty powerful. But so when USAW changed the weight classes, he now has to cut down to 71 kilos. So I'm usually walking around at like 120. I have to imagine if there's a certain point in which I sit on him, it's over. No, I say me to protect my ego, but it would be close and I wouldn't want to know because I bet you he's a dirty fighter.
Second question. How long does it take to have a beard that amazing?
I don't know. Honestly, I try to think, like I see pictures when I didn't have it. 3 years? I mean, it's been this long for a while. So maybe like the initial runway was like 6 months. Maybe.
Do you ever cut it or like trim it, give it a tidy?
Well, I don't. Me personally, no. Yeah. I'm not qualified for that. I have an assistant to answer my emails. I have a barber that cuts my hair. Yeah, I can't. So here, funny story. I had this once, and there was an occasion where I needed to clean it up. I was like, do you like Seinfeld at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Jerry shaves his chest and he tried to level it out, and then nowhere to lie. I had a beard just like this, and then I went in to like trim the neck and like clean up a bit around the chin and all that stuff. And 45 minutes later, I came out with no hair on my face.
Fuck.
That's devastating.
Yeah. It was like literally like the person I was living with at the time was like, duh! Like, there's a giant toddler with a small head. My head is really small. It's just the hair in here, give it the circumference where it matches my body.
Oh, fuck, that's awesome. Question now, this is actually more lifting clinician based. First one of the day. Thoughts on PRI concepts and their application to strength athletes?
Okay, postural restitution, or was it postural
restoration institute? Yeah.
Okay, like it's hard to throw. For me, it's good. Some of their stuff is good. They start to talk about visceral stuff. It's like, all right, the guy who was writing, and this is straight from. So I'm friends with a guy. He's a PhD exercise physiologist named Pat Davidson.
Yep.
If you're not following, follow him. And Pat's into PRI and like this dude named Bill Hartman. So I think the biomechanics can be quite sound. I think they miss the boat when differentiating like movement patterns between bilateral and unilateral when it comes to lower body stuff. I think they're missing the boat a little bit on that. When they go visceral into like organ stuff, and I think you totally lost me. Someone like, and this is where like paraphrasing, I was on a subway with Pat in New York maybe like 4 months ago, and I was really drilling him on it because like I was like, what? Like some people say stuff and it's really good. Some people say other stuff and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, like this is good, this is bad. And we debate on the bilateral, unilateral stuff. And he's like, look, once they get to the visceral stuff, it's like the guy who wrote it started smoking meth or something. Like I can't follow that train of thought. It's weird to me what I always run into with it, and I don't know it back to front, and it's probably wrong for me to critique. No, it is wrong for me to critique it without knowing back to front. But I often see PRI rear its head in arguments around symmetry and lifting. Mm-hmm. So like, your stance doesn't have to be this way versus this way because your spleen is on the left and your liver is on the right or something, and it's like, okay, but so I'll tell you who doesn't give a fuck about that, and that's gravity. right? And that's going to dictate, that asymmetry is going to dictate how we apply those paths of least resistance through the body. And if we're going to apply those through inert or active soft tissues, is going to make a huge difference on what we can actually adapt to, what we can recover from. So that's something that I have. And again, like it's the power of zero, like it's just my anecdotal evidence of it. I think a lot of it's really good, and a lot of people I respect have adopted some of their principles, but I struggle with like applied biomechanics being a principle that can be like, oh, this is PRI stuff. It's like, yeah, nah. We've been walking upright for like 3.2 billion years. So it's kind of like evolution stuff that someone just like observed. Like it's called gravity. It's not called, like Isaac Newton got hit in the head by an apple and like had this idea of like gravity. It's like gravity as a unified force has been around since the Big Bang. So it's like, it's not like called, I mean, force is called Newton's, but it has like gravity itself as the overarching principle is not directly related to Newton. It exists whether or not he acknowledged it or not. That's like my kind of gripe with it. But I think it's cool, man. I like people that do it. Yeah, so it makes you feel good, then go for it.
What's your favorite lifting or favorite memory? It says lifting, but favorite lifting memory with Dan Green?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man.
Because he is a freak.
Yeah, so for me, like my first 700-pound squat in a meet was probably my favorite. So it was. So I did Pro Raw, the first one. So my third meet was Pro Raw. My fourth meet was the U.S. Open, and they were 3 weeks apart. So I went from training out of a monolift for 6 months prepping for Pro Raw to 3 weeks having to walk out a 700+ pound squat. And I hit it once or twice in training. I missed it. I got like maybe like 684 or something, like 315 at Pro Raw. And then Dan is probably the best coach I've ever come across, because like the way I explain Dan's coaching method is it's Asian parenting. Like they're just never proud of you. Like
savage.
Like it's just like you train with him and like he kind of sits there and his timing is so good, and it's like unless you know to look for it, like it's actually like it's everything he does is on purpose, which is it's weird to think that way because everything he does seems like it's all random, but like everything from the way he talks, like he's a very calculated individual, and he has this like pause and a sigh that's like it's the body representation of I'm disappointed in you, and you're like oh that cuts so deep. But he's a good coach in the sense that before I opened with like what did I open with, like 300. And then, or maybe I opened lighter than that, like 290 or something. And then I took 300 or 305 on a second. And I just wanted a 700-pound squat on the board. So going for it, no, I opened 300 and then I went 315. And then like going for it for me was like, let's just chip it and go 320 and get a 704 squat. And he comes out, like he's helping my numbers. He's taking my wraps off after my second attempt. And he's like, do you want to go for it? I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Like that moves quick. Like I'm ready to go. And so I'm walking away and he's putting in my attempt and all I hear him go is, yeah, 330. I'm like, what? Like, what the fuck? We're going like, I don't want to I want to hit this 700. And he's like, you got it, man. Like you fucking got it. And I was like, holy shit, Dad just said he's proud of me.
Oh, that's the fucking
that was it, man. Like if you watch the video, I put it up, like someone tagged me in the thing. It was like, oh, like your favorite lifts you've ever done.
Yeah.
And it was the slowest. I'll send it to you. Like I'll send it to the platform.
Please.
To the Instagram page. Dude, the only thing that got me through that rep was the belief that Dan Green said I could do it. Like that was it. Like it's
Dad said you could.
Grinder rep. And I had. It's funny. The judge at the time was. He came up to me after and was like, he's like, my wife lifts in multiply, so I'm like used to really long lifts. So if it was any other judge, you would have likely got like called. But like the bar never is like when you watch the video, and I've watched the video like 100 times. It's like he goes, that was the slowest squat grind I've ever seen in my entire life. And here, I'm gonna send it to you now if I can. It was just it took years off my life, as powerlifting does. But that
Worth
was, like, the most
Zero regrets.
but it was my favorite, like by far, man. Like it was all him. I just sent it to you, man. It was literally all him. It was just the belief that he had in me that I could do it, and like I had no business squatting that way. Are you guys watching it?
Yeah, we're watching it right now. It just took me to your page.
Oh, gutted.
I will find this. I'll just scroll back through it.
It's back a ways, man. It was a while ago, but
Okay.
that's my favorite lifting moment for sure.
That's fucking sick. Dad's proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Last question from the Instagram. What's
Okay.
the most overrated exercise?
Ooh, Turkish get up.
Oh, okay. Why?
Bam.
So there's effective components of it that when strung together increase the barrier of entry to a point that likely by the time you've reached that part of the movement that will utilize that effective component, you're so far out of position due to some sort of regional instability or lack of mobility that you're in a bad position to actually utilize the effective mechanism of that part of the exercise as it pertains to your needs when you lack range of motion or stability at that joint.
Boom.
Bam.
Wow.
Mic drop.
Fuck
Yeah. Oh, well, let's not drop these mics. These are not ours.
So fuck your Turkish get-ups.
Yeah.
Fucking parlor trick, man. Like listen, when your kid gets trapped under the car, no one goes, hold on, I got it, and like lays underneath with like one hand. No, you're gonna grab the bumper and pray to God you've deadlifted a few times in your life, and you're gonna make the evening news. And, or there's gonna be 2 casualties in that car crash. Like, I don't know. That's an easy one, man.
You're actually really funny, by the way. Like, fuck.
I love it.
Thanks very much.
All right. Oh, fuck. All right, cool. I'm good. All right, we finish off with these 10. Now, these are our questions.
Big
10
questions.
very important questions. Now, these are rapid fire. Obviously, there's a little bit of delay with the video and stuff, but that's cool. First, what is it? First answer that comes to mind, just
First
spit
one.
it out at us as loud as you want.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Favorite book?
If This Is a Man by Primo Levi.
Nice. If you're in a plane crashes, you survive, only one other person survives, who is that going to be when you live on the island for 40 days?
Kayla.
Lovely.
Oh, good
Now,
answer.
obviously, on that island, you could...
We're still good.
Are you still there, bro?
Yeah, we're still good. It's just my old man calling me.
Oh, okay, sweet. So, obviously, on that island, you're going to get hungry. Are you prepared to eat a person?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Dog or cat?
Like, wait, to eat or to have?
Well, your choice. You can do whatever you like with the dog or cat. Up to you.
Oh, no, definitely a dog guy.
And definitely not eating it?
No, I'd eat my own arm before I ate a dog.
Excellent. Good choice. What superpower would you like to have?
Read people's minds.
Ooh. What type of apple are you?
I don't eat apples, so I don't know. The red one. The green one. I don't know.
Is the tooth fairy real?
No.
What is your secret talent?
Pass. I don't know. I'm not exceptionally good at anything.
Apart from being funny, as we just discovered.
I'm mediocre at enough things and have a good videographer. That's
All right, final 2 questions. Who would win in a fight, Superman or Batman?
oh, Superman. What? Why is that?
Yep.
How's that a question?
Thank you.
I
That's
just
exactly
second
right.
Ben Affleck was Batman. But Batman always is going to lose. Ben Affleck's losing.
All right. And then last question. I've changed this last question. Who is cuter? Gawain or Luke Poley?
Well, it's so funny because before you said, like, you paused, my answer was just going to be Gwaine. Gwaine.
Oh, sorry, Luke. Poor Luke.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, Luke, if it was who was scarier, Luke. But, like, have you ever seen G-Unit in a suit?
Yeah, it's adorable.
Yeah, like, G-Unit, I remember G-Unit, like, rocked up to Pro Raw in a suit. And I was like, this guy's going to sell me life insurance. Like, and it was threatening me by wanting to end my life, and I'm just going to buy it. This is amazing. I just sent you the squat to your, you should be able to watch it now.
Oh, here it is.
Here we go. Oh. Oh.
Wow.
Shit.
That's fucked.
Shit.
That's the favorite.
I think I saw your soul leave your body at that point.
Yeah, there was no, like, I thought I passed out, and I thought, like, people grabbed me. Like, I thought that's how I stood up with it.
That's fucking insane.
For those of you reference, that pause was 1 rep of a squat. That 15 seconds of silence was 1 rep of me just dying under a bar.
Wow. That is going in. Jace, we'll get our video guy to put that in the fucking in the YouTubes, because I don't know how to do that. Man, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Obviously, you know, you are a busy man even with everything going on. Oh, there was one more question that just came through. Prescript level 2, is that coming out online?
Yeah, so the curriculum is in process of being developed. There's a few tiered models to the system that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of years. The level 1 is it's an advanced course on purpose. Like it is quite difficult. Like it's challenging because we want to have just to build a reputation of not even just like good coaches, but like just good people. Like the exclusion criteria is set quite high on purpose. So we're actually going to be offering kind of a multitude of programs moving into the future. One's going to be that step ahead once we kind of have a cohort and a large group of level 1 coaches who might be interested in making that next jump in their education. But we're also going to be offering like a more accessible course, a more time-friendly course as well, to give people the prerequisites they might need to go from where they currently are at to actually being able to enjoy the value and the complexity and the detail of the level 1 course. So we're actually kind of have this split tiered model where we're going to be building up to the level 2s, but we're also going to try and bring more people up that ladder and try and give some prerequisites that will allow people to kind of make this jump. There's not much in the industry right now that allows people to do that. And then with knowing and controlling kind of that whole supply chain, really, like we want to be able to curate the content so that that next jump to the level 1 is something that is something that's more accessible, something that's more fun, enjoyable, applicable, applies value to them and their business. And then we're going to build up or finish building up the level 2 model. So it's going to go kind of both ways. We're going to build up to level 2, and then we're going to kind of go down and allow people to start to work their way up the ladder.
That's awesome, man. Fuck
So
yeah.
cool.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll just make it up as we go, right?
Man, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We'll have to catch you. I mean, you drove from Melbourne to Sydney, so you might as well drive from Sydney to Brisbane. Like,
We'll smuggle you across the border.
Just take it around.
Just go around.
Make sure I pack the cartons of cigarettes. Guarantee you, fucking Queenslanders. You know what I do? I'm going to rent a Commodore and grow a mullet, and then I'll just drive right in.
We could we could do fucking doughies in my Commodore. I'll come down and get you.
Or we could literally do anything else.
He like destroyed the Commodore thing on that Instagram live the other day. It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. The look of disappointment is like, as you talk how Dan Green was proud of you, I felt like I've disappointed Jordo, not just through my shorts that I choose to wear, but also my choice of car now.
Yeah, you could show up driving a Fiat, man. You'd still be in good standing.
Man, thank you so much. We'll catch up again soon for sure. Other than that, good luck with everything, and we'll chat to you soon for sure.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Good talking.
Thank you, dude.
Goodbye.
Bye.